Lines is presented by Calvo's Insurance, a legacy of trust, serving Micronesia since 1938. Matson Navigation, serving Guam and Micronesia for 20 years. All new 2018 Kona by Hyundai, available at Cars Plus. IP&E, fueling excellence. McDonald's of Guam, I'm loving it, and King's Restaurant, located in Tamuning and Dededo. Always open, always local.
Ahead on Primetime, the internal affairs investigation into the deadly beating at the prison is complete. Plus, multiple arrests after a drug raid at a Dededo home. And some relief to the H-2B worker crisis. The Fed's now accepting applications for workers linked to the buildup.
Half a day and good evening.
7 prisoners were charged for the murder of a detainee. And now that DOC's internal affairs investigation is done, 7 guards face disciplinary action.
Yeah, they apparently failed to follow policies and procedures when watching over the prison population the day detainee Edrit Manson Isar was found dead. More than a handful of corrections officers in the spotlight the 7 guards served could face disciplinary action related to the December 2017 murder of detainee Edrit Isar. Prison Director Tony Lamarena is saying his investigators' findings were enough to call out the officers working in the Hagani detention facility that day, though he is not releasing details at this time.
It's a personnel matter at this time. It would have been premature for me. There is a process.
He says it's clear they failed to follow department policies.
Well, if they weren't broken, then there wouldn't be a need to give a proposed adverse action.
They range from new to seasoned officers. Lamarena has given them 10 days to respond to the notice before making his final decision.
Standard actions are suspension, termination, demotion, or do nothing. There could be responses that would answer a lot of the questions within the investigation, and so that's why the process is there. It gives the opportunity for the employee to state their case.
As reported, Isar was found dead inside his cell, the police investigation revealing that he had been brutally beaten by multiple detainees hours before guards found him unresponsive. Detainees Elas Simron, Andrew Rios, Albert Santos II, Benster Benjamin, Isler Miller, Jimmy Hadley, and Marvin Retcham are charged for their alleged part in the prison attack. Investigators say the motive for the attack on Isar was revenge. Isar was in jail accused of breaking into a home and raping an 18-year-old woman with Down syndrome. But since the brutal attack, Lamarena says,
we are briefing the officers of procedures and standard operating procedures and policies, and to ensure that this doesn't happen again. There are policies in place.
Whatever the final disciplinary action may be, Lamarena admits it will impact his agency, already short on manpower.
It's quite difficult. We need the support of not just the legislature, but the community as well. They do hard work, and a lot of their efforts go unnoticed. We're not out there in the community. We're confined within a facility, and a lot of times, I look at the officers here as unsung heroes. Every day they work with individuals that have committed crimes, and every day they walk in here, they face the realities of possibly getting hurt or injured, and so I respect them for the work that they do.
Work that includes preventing another deadly attack on the inside.
Some much-needed relief in the foreign labor crisis. USCIS is now accepting visa petitions for H-2B workers for projects directly connected to the military buildup. This follows an order last month by Guam District Court Chief Judge Francis Tydinko Gatewood that essentially reverts the visa policy back to when almost 100% were routinely approved. Here's Governor DeCalvo.
We believe there's going to be now some liberalization in approval of those H-2B visas. We have that, plus the good news of the decision made by, our judge, Judge Tydinko Gatewood. I think these are positive news, and now the proof is in the pudding.
The guidance from USCIS relates to provisions of a defense spending bill that authorizes up to 4,000 foreign skilled laborers for Guam military projects. Applications will be accepted immediately for work that begins April 11th or later.
Well, a find of the drug ice, marijuana, oxycodone, and hydrocodone pills, plus other drug paraphernalia leads to the arrest of 6. Gina Demopan, Benjamin Borja, To That Fam, Randy Juicy, Elaine Cruz, and Aisha Demapon are each facing separate charges of drug possession. The drug bust carried out at a home on Swamp Road in Dededo Thursday. Along with the drugs, police also confiscated a handgun and an undisclosed amount of cash.
Canned food, a wooden broomstick, hot water, and a crowbar. These are just some of the items one family allegedly used to attack one another. Court documents state the incident occurred on Thursday. Abra, Helen Affligui, Carlos Joseph Salas Jr., and Peter Roberto Salas Jr. were arrested and charged with family violence, all as misdemeanors.
Who to believe? A 23-year-old woman is behind bars accused of beating a 5-year-old. Court documents state Ashley Bonds allegedly hit the victim in the chest and face with a black belt. When interviewed by police, Bonds reported the girl fell. Bonds was arrested and charged with family violence, child abuse, both as misdemeanors.
This video circulating on social media has now caught the attention of the Guam Department of Education. It shows a John F. Kennedy High School student on the ground as bystanders, including other students in uniform, rushed to her aid. It happened around 8:30 Thursday morning at Harmon Industrial Park. DOE officials say the student was drunk and may have been injured after falling to the ground. Guam police responded to the scene. Patrick Camacho was at work when he rushed over to assist. Medics responded to the scene as well. The student's condition has not yet been released. The school system is looking into the incident.
Well, don't be fooled. The Guam Waterworks Authority is alerting customers of reports of individuals posing as GWA employees. The suspects are described as persons driving a gray Nissan Altima and asking residents to check or change their meters. The incidents were reported to Machinano Dededo. Customers are advised that all GWA staff are identified by an official badge and driving an official GWA car. To report any suspicious vehicles or persons, call GWA's 24/7 water line at 646-4211 and report the incident to authorities.
Stick around for more news here on Primetime.
You're watching KUAM.
There are more ways to experience KUAM News than any other source on Guam. Download the KUAM News app for your Apple or Android device for 24/7 news, sports, videos, weather, streaming with KUAM radio, and important news alerts. And stay connected at home with Guam's first app for Apple TV. All available now from the App Store.
Half the day, I'm in the club.
Half the day, welcome to Two Lovers Point.
Half the day, I'm in the club.
Leave no room for doubts this Valentine's Day by heading to IT&E. For February only, get your boo the Samsung Galaxy Note 8 for just $59. And for the Apple lovers, get the 10 for just $199 on the 40 gig 4G LTE data plan. Or 2 S8s for just $199 on a share plan. This sweetheart deal is available for a limited time only.
Cars Plus and Mighty has the trucks. And during Ram Truck Month, save up to $97.50 on new Ram trucks. Cars Plus has a great selection of 2018 Ram trucks. Plus, shop our remaining 2017 Ram 1500s. Voted Guam's best truck 2 years in a row. The Ram truck comes with a 5-year, 60,000-mile powertrain warranty. And with 1.99 APR financing for qualified buyers, there's no better time to buy than now. It's Ram Truck Month, and only Cars Plus and Mighty has the trucks. Cars Plus, driven by you.
Welcome back. A week after the notice was first received, it is official that Guahan Academy Charter Middle and High School will not be evicted this school year. At a parents' meeting, Chairwoman Faye Avalos tearfully thanked the property owner representative. Dongman Chang says it's Nanchil Shin Trust's way of giving back.
But I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, parents, This is the miracle.
I know how it feels to be displaced from getting from one school to another. It's a big step. It's a lot stressful for the kids too and everything. And we don't want to see that. We're not in a business where we want to harm our kids.
Though it is by the kindness of their hearts, Ovalis says issues with keeping the property came down to money.
There's only one solution, really. It's the money. And it's not that you guys don't have money. We have $2.8 million out there, and we continues to be audited every year. So you know the books of the KUAM Academy Charter School is clean. None of your money is being spent anywhere else but for our children.
The school will be forced to find a new campus after June 30th.
The Calvo administration is projecting a budget surplus of about $17 million for the past fiscal year.
But while it reduces the government's paper deficit, it won't lessen the drastic revenue drop from the Trump tax reforms. Nestor Lecanto reports.
The governor says it's certainly a positive. What it means is that the government spent millions of dollars less than what was appropriated. But to be clear, it does not necessarily mean there is an additional $17 million in the bank.
It shows that, number one, the government was able to provide service and improve on them, and yet at the same time we live within our means by reducing the deficit to a point right now where we've almost wiped out the accumulated deficit that was in the hundreds of millions of dollars just a few years ago.
A deficit of $330 million, he says, when he took over, to about $88 million now, and should have been down to just $30+ million if the Solid Waste Authority were to reimburse the more than $50 million the general fund fronts it for bond debt service. But GovGuam now faces a new, unexpected crisis brought on by massive federal corporate and individual tax cuts that will reduce revenues by almost $70 million this fiscal year alone. In response, Calvo wants to raise the business privilege tax by 50% from 4% to 6%.
All I'm asking now is to equalize those revenues. If there's going to be this big reduction on income taxes, then let's have an increase on BPT, on territorial taxes, so that we get a wash.
The legislature will hold public hearings on two separate plans next week, the governor's and the speaker's, which calls for a smaller increase to the BPT of 25% from 4% to 5%.
I'm hopeful that the public will come in and testify. These are for problems that weren't created by us. It was created by the federal government. But I know working collaboratively that we can come to a solution.
For Guam's News Network, I'm Nestor Lecanto.
Valentine's just passed, but you're probably not loving your power bill. In an informational briefing today, GPA General Manager John Benevente and CCU Chair Joey Duenas appeared before Senators Talina Nelson and Regine Biscoli to discuss current GPA concerns, one of them being power rate increases. As of this month, the fuel surcharge known as LEAC was raised to 14.7 cents per kilowatt, adding about $30 to the average power bill. And starting May 1st, residents can anticipate an extra $7 to their bills as the rate will be increased again to 15.4 cents. This surcharge is directly related to fuel expenses, which GPA pays for and tries to get back from its customers. But with rising fuel costs and residents only having to pay about 50% of recovery costs, GPA has an under-recovery of about $17 million.
GPA paid out more for the fuel than it was able to collect from its customers. And the deal is it should collect from its customers the right amount to pay for the fuel. There should be zero at the end of the period. That's what we strive for. With the projection of the increase that went into effect on February 1st of this year, we still project an under-recovery of $12 million. When that May correction is going to be made to 15.4, we still believe we'll still have a $9 million under-recovery.
The upcoming May increase will stay in effect until the end of July. Future power rates will ultimately depend on fuel costs.
Facing tough decisions after looming budget cuts, one lawmaker introduced a measure that would give GovGuam authority to reprioritize. Senator Frank Gogan Jr. introduced Bill 247, known as the Government Priorities Act of 2018. If signed into law, it would put education, health, and public safety as top priorities and group other agencies that can possibly be merged or even abolished. The act would allow the governor to take those necessary measures by means of an executive order. You can view the measure at guamlegislature.org.
And now time to check in with our friends at KSPN 2 News with your regional roundup.
Half a day Guam, here's what's making headlines in the CNMI.
Do you believe that there are still unpaid workers remaining on the island?
Today, Governor Torres' answer to this question asked by Senator Maria Cantwell of Washington State is being scrutinized.
That I am not sure. I know that those issues that was addressed last year were being paid. I'm not aware of any other labor that are not being paid.
Senator Cantwell asked Governor Torres about unpaid workers in the CNMI last week in a Senate hearing in Washington, D.C. Contrary to Governor Torres' answer, we have new information today that indicates 5 former MCC construction workers who all worked on the Imperial Pacific Hotel are still here and still unpaid. This photo was sent in a press release, and they want Governor Torres to know they have been here for 10 months, still unpaid. The press release was sent by the administrator of the Twitter account Goldmantis Labor. It says, quote, "It's one thing if Governor Torres and the CNMI government will not investigate. However, Governor Torres must at least be honest with the U.S. Senate that these casino construction workers remain on Saipan without having been paid." Dr. David Gutnick, the Government Accountability Office Director of International Affairs and Trade, was also asked by Senator Cantwell about unpaid workers and had this to say.
With respect to the worker abuses that were identified last year, I think that the sunlight that was shined on that problem last year was significant. It got a lot of public exposure and a lot of public attention, and I think that, in addition to the enforcement concerns, was helpful in raising the awareness of the federal government and many others about these concerns.
In the last few months, the Department of Labor, along with Imperial Pacific International, tried making amends with the workers by offering them unpaid wages. But the unpaid wages did not include liquidated damages, so they did not entertain the offer and legally believe they are owed more.
Liquidated or double damages are supposed to be automatic. If you brought a lawsuit against a company, they would be automatic, and if the Department of Labor fully enforcing its laws, it would collect those double damages.
Kathy Ruckelshaws is general counsel for the National Employment Law Project and works closely with cases like these unpaid workers all over the country.
This is a history in the making.
Never before in the history of the CNMI has there been a plan for action and recovery in case of a typhoon. But today that all changes as our local government, along with the help of FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Administration, presented the Region 9 Catastrophic Typhoon Plan.
A strong foundation, how to approach typhoon, because it is coming. It's inevitable. It's just a matter of when.
The idea to create this plan was spawned after Typhoon Soudelor. There was no official plan in place then. Governor Torres says that's because up until that point, no major natural disaster had struck the island.
I believe that it was overlooked, and perhaps because we never had this kind of experiences, and therefore it was never seen as a mandatory putting our priorities in.
Hoping we don't have to use the plan, Governor Torres is confident that if we do, it will make the recovery process easier.
This is definitely the right approach moving forward.
The plan, presented at the Homeland Security Emergency Operations Center on Capitol Hill Thursday morning, highlights and uses the experiences of what worked in the recovery of Typhoon Soudelor with some added measures and has been in the works for nearly 2 years. In 2016, FEMA officials came to the island to document the Soudelor recovery efforts and plan with local officials.
To analyze the recovery up to that point from Soudelor, to talk about lessons learned, best practices, and then start to look at areas that we can improve and areas that we need to better have plans and contingency plans to be able to better meet the needs of CNMI.
That's your KSPN 2 News Roundup. For more, go to saipantv.com. I'm Sherry Riggs reporting.
A farewell to a longtime public servant and war survivor. Family, friends, and colleagues said their final goodbyes to former Inarajan Mayor Jamie Paulino during his state funeral today. A resolution was presented to recognize the accomplishments of the former commissioner mayor of the Southern Village and past president of the Mayor's Council of Guam. Here's former Governor Carl Gutierrez.
If there's one thing had to come to know about Jaime, is that when he is committed to something, he poured himself into it, heart and soul. He was a man of dedication through and through. And Jaime was an old school kind of guy, relentless in his efforts, but non-confrontational in his approach.
Sorry, correction, that was Jaime Paulino. He was 82 years old.
Well, sports is next, but first, here's your island weather.
Binging movies in bed shouldn't